Images that still haunt the nation 25 years on from Beijing's Tiananmen Square massacre. In the spring of 1989, more than 1 million people protested in the square, camping out to demand freedom and change. The movement was sparked by the death of Communist Party leader Hu Yaobang, who had been removed from office by party hardliners, subsequently becoming an icon for democratic reform. Chinese troops opened fire on the pro-democracy demonstrators after they were ordered by the military to enforce martial law in the country's capital. The footage of a lone protester standing in front of a line of tanks, known now as Tank Man, has become one of the most powerful symbols of the 20th century. The man carrying 2 plastic bags, one in each hand, is seen standing directly in the path of a column of armoured tanks, effectively preventing them from moving down the avenue towards the square. Protesters did not attack or provoke the soldiers, but the military fired at them anyway. The attack continued until June the 5th. During that period of time, tanks were sent out and they showed no mercy to the protesters. Today's anniversary, also known as the June the 4th incident, has never been publicly marked in mainland China. But every year there are public commemorations in Hong Kong. On the 26th of April this year, a museum dedicated to the brutal 1989 crackdown opened in Hong Kong despite a small group of pro-China protesters questioning its version of the truth. Exhibits include video footage and newspaper articles from 25 years ago. In a simple opening ceremony, the museum's founders tore apart a copy of a 1989 editorial from the government mouthpiece newspaper People's Daily to reveal the logo of the museum. Jonathan Chan, a Hong Kong resident, was a student when he flew to Beijing to show support for the movement. He can vividly remember scenes from that day.
It was on the lobby, it was on the wall, all the blood spilled from the wounded people. And people crying for help, mourning for their pain. It's unbearable.
Freedom in modern China, one of the most economically powerful nations in the world, remains a divisive issue. Ahead of the Olympics in 2008, there was unrest in Tibet, with a series of riots and protests. According to the Chinese administration governing Tibet, the unrest was motivated by separatism and orchestrated by the Dalai Lama. The spiritual leader of Tibet said he did not encourage the protests. China's pledge to the world that the international media would be allowed to report freely during the Beijing Games appeared broken after a British reporter was briefly detained by Chinese police while covering a Free Tibet protest.
I've been arrested. These people are arresting me. I've been arrested by the Chinese police for just trying to cover the protest here. I was inside the park.
ITV News' John Ray was forcibly removed along with demonstrators, but was released shortly afterwards.
Wrestled me into the restaurant here. They've taken my shoes off me, they've taken my equipment bag, they've taken all the equipment I've got, and they won't tell me why I've been arrested. Are you arresting me? I want to talk. I want to talk.
In more recent weeks, China has rebuked the United States for calling for the release of activists, including lawyers, professors and journalists detained after attending a meeting about the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests, saying Washington had no right to demand criminals be set free. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has also urged Vietnam to immediately stop what it says are provocative and sabotaging actions against China's oil drilling operation in the South China Sea and warned Japan to stay out of it. Last week saw thousands of people queuing at a subway station in Beijing to pass security checks which have been tightened following a series of bloody attacks in China's troubled western Xinjiang region.